Yay Networks.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to In the Cards and Stars. This is our Taylor Swift Part 2, all of the boys she loved before and why it didn't work out. This is the one that I have been excited about. Now, last week was great to build that foundation, understand like Taylor's early experiences of love, get into the puppy love stages. There were a few people that made a big impression. Definitely, we had a little bit of Taylor Lautner. Who else did she date? John Mayer. I'm blanking on one of the worst ones of all. We had John Mayer, but that was really, I think, a different era for her, if you will. This time period that we're entering into in this episode is when things really get a little bit karmic. The relationships start to get spicier. The stakes are higher. There's more chemistry. And let's just dive right in. I'm super excited to tell you guys about these boys that she dated. And first we have Harry Styles. We're going to start there. This is around 2012. And their birth charts are really interesting. So a lot of fans think that Harry is like the one that got away. And boy, did I have fun going down some TikTok rabbit holes, doing my very important research. Wow, their relationship, the way that they were back in the day. And then even recently, the two of them were spotted at the 2023 Grammys talking, being sweet to each other. At one point, Harry was accepting an award at the Grammys and people were heckling him. So Taylor stood up. You can look that up on TikTok and watch the video yourself. I was starting to kind of, get the feels for this couple again. I'm like, could they ever get back together? Oh my God, I feel like everything I say is a Taylor Swift lyric. But this is just, it's like more of a sweet relationship. So when we look at the birth charts and like their placements, we can see the intense connection, we can see the friendship, and we can also see why he was the guy that got away, or maybe the person that helped to prime her so that she could have, deeper relationships. Maybe he stepped aside. You see what you guys think when you hear about this. So Harry Styles has a lot of Aquarius placements, first of all. I mean, he is like one of the most Aquarian people I've ever seen. His birth chart has a whopping 4 placements in Aquarius, and they're very major planets. So Harry has his sun in Aquarius, his Mercury in Aquarius, Venus and Mars. So literally, like, the way that he operates is very Aquarius. And I think that we can see that, especially like recently, now that he's solo, he dresses the way he wants. He's not afraid to do a gender bending look. He will wear whatever he wants. It's sparkly, it's fun, and he really seems like he's come into his own the older he's gotten. Aquarius is just such an individual. So we see him really like living out his purpose, which is amazing. And when we look at Taylor's chart, we know that she has her Venus in Aquarius. So that means that the way that Harry operates, the way he thinks with that Mercury, the way that he loves with that Venus, the way that he is passionate about life, all of those things about his personality basically bring out her Venus energy. So that's a really intense attraction between two people. Now, when we look at it a little bit closer, we also see that it's just an expansive type of relationship, which is why I really do consider him one of the relationships that, she probably felt the deepest about, even though it was really short. And we did get a lot of great songs from this relationship. We got Style, Out of the Woods, Wildest Dreams, allegedly. And I think the reason that he inspired so much creativity in her is because of that conjunction with her Venus. So we can definitely see why he's always going to have a soft spot in her heart. But he does lack the dimension of some of the people that we're going to talk about later, which is why I think it kind of fell apart. Also, with Aquarius being the main connector between two people's birth charts, as great as that is, Aquarius is an air sign, and it's almost like it's just not enough to make it last. You know what I mean? It just gives this energy of like such a beautiful, short-lived connection. And I think Harry said it best in a 2017 Rolling Stone interview. I'm actually going to read this quote from him because it really hit me right in the heart. And I think it's so sweet. So when he was asked about Taylor Swift, and someone said, okay, this interviewer is like, at least 2 songs from Swift's 2015 album at the time, 1989, Style and Out of the Woods, are rumored to be written about you. Like, how do you feel about that? This was his response. I mean, I don't know if they were about me or not, but the issue is she's good. They're bloody everywhere. I write from my experiences, and everybody does that. I'm lucky if everything we went through helped create those songs. That's what hits your heart. That's the stuff that's hardest to say, and it's the stuff I talk least about. That's the part that's about 2 people. I'm never going to tell anybody everything. Then the interviewer asked if he had anything left to say to Swift that he hadn't already said. This is so sweet. He said, certain things don't work out. There's a lot of things that can be right and it's still wrong. In writing songs about stuff like that, I like tipping a hat to the time together. You're celebrating the fact that it was powerful and made you feel something. Rather than this didn't work out and that's bad. And if you run into that person, maybe it's awkward, maybe you have to get drunk, but you shared something. Meeting someone new, sharing those experiences, that's the best shit ever. So thank you. I mean, how sweet. And that is an Aquarius connection. It is not possessive. It's not controlling. It's very much about experiencing things together. You know, Aquarius is the sign of like brotherly, sisterly love. So it totally makes sense that they could still be friends today and still support each other. So I think that's beautiful, super cute. So we can wrap that one up in a bow. Now it's going to get a little bit darker. Okay. So we move on to Calvin Harris at this point. And I have him in my notes as the big betrayal, because I definitely think that, you know, on paper, he betrayed her when it came to the song that they wrote together. This is what you came for. A lot of people have speculated that that whole song and everything that like happened with the press around the release of that song and the interviews that he did really is what led to the breakdown of their relationship. Now, neither have confirmed that. This is still in Taylor's very secretive era, but people have definitely said that it was very strange between them because she wanted to be kind of behind the scenes to let him shine. And he was more than happy to allow that to happen. And in interviews, he almost kind of snubbed or poo-pooed, kind of made it seem like her contribution was very minor. He wasn't lifting her up. And we see in their birth charts that this info backs that theory up. So here's what's going on with them that I think is really interesting. So by the way, they dated from like 2015 to 2016. So at the time, this was considered like her most serious public relationship. Now we can see that there's like a super strong connection here. So for him, when we look at his birth chart, Calvin Harris has his sun in Capricorn, his moon in Cancer, which is the same placement as her moon. So that's already a huge emotional connection. His Mercury is also in Capricorn. Now, his sun and Mercury both being in Capricorn, that makes them conjunct her Mercury. So automatically, these 2 people would connect. Like as soon as they start talking, there's a connection. It's like, I get you, you get me. And then when they start to open up and talk about their feelings, both having the moon in Cancer, it's like, I mean, you can see how this could have gotten very, very serious. So I think this was probably a big heartbreak for both of them. Now, the reason that I think things kind of just went so incredibly sideways is the South Node conjunction that they have also. So in Calvin's chart, he has his North Node in Gemini, meaning like in this lifetime, he is here to pursue Gemini type of, activities. So he needs to get away from more Sagittarius mindset of the South Node. That's like his past lives. That's his early life. And he needs to really get away from like being a philosopher, isolating himself, escapism, all the Sagittarius things. And he needs to really focus on being like a Gemini. I mean, he needs to be communicative. He needs to be out in public. He needs to be talking to a lot of different people, putting out a lot of music or writing. So he is like, part of his path is like struggling between wanting to be a Sagittarius and kind of just being like, all right, I'm just going to like go to Ibiza. I'm just going to like F off right now. I'm going to go and hang out in my room and make music and really reach for that North node of being social. Gemini is very social. Gemini also rules the third house of neighbors and siblings and like things that we do in our neighborhood and surrounding areas. So he's really supposed to like be out and about. And what's interesting about Taylor being a Sagittarius sun, that's conjunct his south node. So when you have this connection, there is this energy of like dragging each other down. And it's not always the case, by the way. Like, I actually am married to someone who his sun is conjunct my south node. And I feel like the conditions kind of have to be right for it to really drag you down, because it can also indicate a past life connection where you guys have reunited to keep the relationship going. So you have to look at like all the other aspects in the birth chart. But the reason I think that this particular connection has the dragging down aspect is because in Taylor's birth chart, she has something kind of unique going on, and it's called a multiple planet opposition. Okay. And basically what that means is that she has a lot of planets that are opposite each other in the signs of Capricorn and Cancer, like a lot of them, to the point where she actually has this thing called the multiple planet opposition. And this is a karmic thing, meaning that part of Taylor Swift's energy and like what she's here to do is to balance the Capricorn side of her and the Cancer side of her. And this is all stuff that goes on like within her. This is like her own thing, her responsibility, has to do with the way she views the world and the way she views herself and how she like interacts with the world. So Cancer is very nurturing. Capricorn is the boss. And I think we can totally see this also just in her personality. So inside there's this internal battle where she has to learn how to balance wanting to be successful and in control and being the nurturer and letting other people's wishes and needs take center stage. And you can imagine how difficult this would be, because with all that Capricorn in your chart, like you have a drive to be successful, and she is very successful, but she's just as soft as she is strong, especially with these being major planets for her. So what I noticed about Calvin's birth chart is that he has these same exact placements: Sun in Capricorn, Moon in Cancer, Mercury in Capricorn. He literally has the same planetary opposition within his big three that she has throughout her chart. So this relationship, I think, in a nutshell, I know it goes so deep, this was a very karmic connection. And I think what it did was helped Taylor to separate the emotional side of herself from the business side of herself. And I don't think that she has ever made the same mistakes, if you'll call, mistakes. I don't think she really did anything wrong, but I think she learned to like protect herself more going forward. And we can see that in the future, she's handled things in a very different way than she did with Calvin. She was very clear about the way that things went with Joe. Like, he even had a different name when they produced a song together. I think that she just learned to draw really, really strong boundaries. And at this time in her life, I don't think that she realized the need for that yet. So there's a huge karmic situation going on there. But I do think because of the South Node conjunction, where his South Node is conjunct her sun, it like helped to resolve whatever karma she had about that. So I do think she learned whatever lesson that relationship was meant to teach her so that she could move on. Now, the karmic relationships are also the hardest to move on from. If you've had a karmic relationship, which I think most of us have, you know that. These are the hardest to leave, even when you know you need to. And this is where we have the getaway car, Tom Hiddleston, coming in for the save. I look at him as a literal representation of the Getaway Car song. He is the person that kind of helped her to realize that there's more out there, that she can be happy again. She can find someone else, because I think she was very entrenched with Calvin Harris. A lot of intense energy around that connection. So moving right along, she is getting out and about, living her life. The whole thing has already happened with Calvin Harris. I think she's kind of seen his true colors. She's trying to figure out, how do I get away from this situation and move forward? In comes Tom Hiddleston, and his chart is also showing a lot of really positive aspects to Taylor's chart. So he has his sun in Aquarius, making it conjunct her Venus. So she's already attracted to him. As soon as he walked in the room, she was like, ooh, who's that guy? We're going to come back to his moon sign. Just put a pin in the moon sign because I think that's what broke them up. His Mercury is in Pisces. So it's I think that was a little bit hazy for her because she has her Mercury in Capricorn. So this is something that I think it was just kind of a difficulty as far as communication. A lot of attraction, but difficulty with communicating with each other. So Capricorn, Mercury people, they're very straightforward. So Taylor's actually super straightforward. These people, there's not a lot of gray area. It's kind of like what you see is what you get. They think in terms of planning, and they actually really enjoy that. They need a clear picture of what's going on. Now, Mercury and Pisces people are the complete opposite. They feel hemmed in by that much of a plan. It's draining for them. And really, no one's right or wrong. It's just a totally different way of kind of going about communicating, making plans, thinking things through. They're just very opposite when it comes to that. So I think that, she probably needed more structure from him and he needed more freedom from her. Do we have to plan everything, Okay, so that was going on. But then if we go back to their moon signs, this is where I think it really broke down. So he has his moon in Aries, and Aries is really fun, fiery. I love Aries energy. Who doesn't? But when it comes to the moon sign, you have to make sure that whoever you're with, if you have this placement or if you're dating someone with this placement, they have to be compatible. So it would be great to have an air sign moon or another fire sign moon, because Aries in particular is the first sign of the zodiac, the baby of the zodiac. And if they don't have an equally fiery counterpart, they can start to become kind of kind of whiny, kind of needy. And with Taylor's moon in Cancer, this is the placement of the parent. His moon, Aries, is the placement of the child. So what I think really happened between these two is there was a communication breakdown. They were kind of realizing, okay, we want different things. And then on top of that, I think that even though he was the older one, I think that there was a role reversal and he kind of wanted her to be a mother figure, allegedly. Okay, for entertainment purposes here. I am just totally feeling that vibe from them. And that's obviously that's not hot. I mean, she doesn't want to baby her partner. And I think probably at the end of the day, he doesn't really want his partner to be a mommy to him. So I think that's just what happened. And so it was a short-lived love affair. I think there was some great synastry there for a short time. It did what it was supposed to do. And, moving on, just another lesson learned. And then we have Joe Alwyn. Now, I had him in my notes as the lover. After looking into his birth chart, I crossed that out and I wrote the lesson. I was like, I have had it with this man. There's a lot going on in his chart, and he's not a bad person by any means. But when I see his chart next to Taylor's, the story just starts to write itself. So here's what's going on with them. With Joe, and of course, little background, I think we all kind of already know this, but they dated for 5-6 years. This was her actual longest relationship. And this was who she was with up until earlier this year. So he has his sun in Pisces. Honestly, sun in Pisces with sun in Aquarius, it's kind of a confusing coupling. I wouldn't put those two together ever. Whereas Taylor, part of her purpose and what she does here is, I'm sorry, what am I saying? With her Sagittarius sun, I was thinking of Tom Hiddleston still. That would be a different chart reading. But with her sun in Sagittarius, she's here to philosophize. She's here to travel, which she does. She travels all over the world. She's here to connect with all types of different people, and it's very extroverted. And at the same time, as the philosopher sign, there is this separateness about her where she's always going to need to take time to kind of be alone and like process her feelings. It's a very extroverted introvert energy. And if you know any Sagittarius people, you can probably confirm that. Now, with Joe, the sun in Pisces, this is someone who is very emotional, very, maybe even moody at times, very creative, extremely intuitive. And this is an introverted introvert. So he is like very introverted. And we did hear that in a lot of reports about their breakup that, you know, they just kind of wanted different things. They were sort of on completely different pages. And he does not like the limelight, supposedly, but we will get to that in his chart. So overall, the sun in Pisces does kind of like to hide away. Then we have his moon in Taurus. This is a stability loving energy. So I'm getting this picture of like a homebody already, right? Taurus people, they love to be at home. They can be very stable, which is good for a Cancer moon, but they might not be able to express themselves as deeply as a Cancer moon would need. You know, Cancer being at home there with the moon, this is an extremely emotionally intelligent placement. So this is someone who's really good at communicating their feelings, needs a lot of emotional communication. And I just think that a moon in Taurus person might have a little bit of difficulty with that. So that's, you know, so I think it's like, it's very meh. It's kind of a middle of the road connection right there with the moon signs. Then it's Mercury's in Aquarius. So this makes sense as to why they wrote a song together. You know, the Mercury, again, it's the way we think, the way we communicate. Them having that in common, I think it's what led to their creativity, you know, really working out. Venus is like creating beautiful things. I also think it's what allowed their attraction to be sustainable when they have a lot of other placements that kind of don't make sense. So this was a very Venus fueled relationship. You know, if you listen to Lavender Haze, I think that would kind of give you a good feel for like what that relationship might have felt like. It is intoxicating to have that Venus connection, but it has just the right amount of confusion to like, I think, make it interesting until you grow out of that. If you know what I mean, it's like, it's interesting because you don't get each other, but then that kind of gets old after a few years. So I definitely think that that's just kind of what started to happen. There was a kind of a breakdown again of just like the emotional connection with the moon signs. The sun signs were not on the same page. She wanted to travel the world being a Sagittarius. He wanted to like hide away and read his scripts and like not be in front of the paparazzi. A sun sign, you know, a fire sign and a water sign, it's just kind of a difficult placement. Water puts out fire in astrology. So unless there are other really strong placements, it can just be super difficult because the fire person will always feel like the water person is like kind of, you know, dumping water on their flame, which if you listen to Bejeweled, you know how it is. Okay. So we also have his Venus in Pisces. You know, it's not like, so for her, his Mercury connecting to her Venus, very creative, really great, stimulating his mind. But then when we look at his Venus, it's almost like he was more interested in her from an intellectual perspective. Because when it comes to like Venus and Pisces, what he needed in order to really feel romantically charged up is someone who could be in that Piscean energy of just kind of like I feel like he would need someone who's like a fellow actor, someone with another water sign Venus, someone who just is able to kind of just do what he needs them to do, like be at home with them. Pisces is mutable. So I think he was able to kind of go with it for a little bit, but really she doesn't have any Pisces in her chart. So I just think the attraction, I don't know. And I hate to say this because, you know, there was a lot going on here. But it does seem like maybe the attraction was a little bit stronger on her end. I could be wrong, but that's what it looks like here. Then his Mars in Gemini, another what? Like she doesn't have any Gemini really to speak of. So it just kind of raises questions. Now, here is where we get into why I think things really didn't work out and the difficulties and lessons from this relationship. So if we look at Joe's Saturn, his Saturn is in Aquarius. Now, meaning that his Saturn, which is the placement of hard work, challenge, difficulty, where we like learn and have to like grow up, it can be kind of a burden, to be honest, wherever your Saturn is, even though you do learn like amazing lessons that, you know, can never be taken away from you, but it's like the coach. It's the difficult placement that you have to overcome. Having his Saturn in Aquarius conjunct her Venus, this would indicate that he possibly looked at her love as a burden. So I'm like, okay, wow. Or like their love connection as work. Her love was Saturn energy to him. Work, difficulty. Saturn is just, it's kind of where we can feel a little bit alone at times. We feel like no one understands our struggle. It's kind of difficult. So I think for him, the relationship, it did feel like really hard work. It was out of his comfort zone. And I think that being in the public eye, forcing himself to do whatever it took to make her happy, satisfy her Venus Aquarius, it was just really not enjoyable for him. Then we have his North Node placement. Now, this is where I think we see, some of the rumors that were circulating about him being threatened by her career and success, him being jealous. And I gotta say, based on the birth chart, it wouldn't be that surprising if that were true, because he has his North Node in Capricorn, meaning what he wants, what he's striving for, but what is difficult for him. Our North Node, it's like, it feels great, but until we get there, it's kind of a struggle. And sometimes we can even feel jealous of other people who are embodying our North Node qualities if we don't feel like we can get there. So she has a stellium in Capricorn. She's got a lot of Capricorn energy. She's got a lot of success. Capricorn basically wants to have the type of career, billionaire status, millionaire status, respect, power that Taylor Swift essentially has in her career, what she's built for herself. With that being his North Node, I just think that it was very hard for him to see someone else embodying Capricorn energy. It's almost like he probably felt like he could never catch up. And if he did start to embody that more, I think that maybe it could have worked out. But, the North Node, it's something that takes time. So he was possibly identifying more with his South Node in Cancer, and his Chiron is also in Cancer. So I just think that this relationship brought up a lot of self-doubt, a lot of South Node themes. Again, it's part of her planetary opposition of Capricorn and Cancer. So I think there are just a lot of deep-seated issues. It's almost like they started to trigger each other. So, and again, those are sometimes the most intoxicating relationships, because it's like there's a Venus connection, there's a Mercury connection. It's not quite lining up, but it's like just enough to trigger all these things that you need to heal. And so I think that's what they did. And it took them a few years to heal, learn the lessons, and then move on to our next person who she is still currently dating. Next, we have Travis Kelce. The whole reason that if you guys are watching on YouTube, I'm wearing my Chiefs gear, my Chiefs stuff, because she's been everywhere, all over the Chiefs stadium. You guys know, if you have a TV, if you turn on a podcast, if you look anywhere, you already know everything going on with this couple. They are America's sweethearts. They are the modern day fairy tale. And personally, I'm all for it. I think it's precious, and I see a lot of good things between them. Now, you guys might join me in being stans of this relationship when you hear about all their connections. This made me so happy, especially seeing all of the other really intense connections that she had in this time period, like really from like 2012 up until she met Travis. It just seems like it was relationship after relationship that seemed like it could have been something that might have worked out for the long term, But I think a lot of these relationships were equally painful as they were exciting. It was like equal parts because she had a lot of karmic stuff to learn, as we all do. And I can just see it in the relationships playing out. So I'm super happy to talk about their connection because it's just so darn cute. Travis Kelce, first of all, a couple of little cute facts about the two of them. There's some foreshadowing to this connection. And I do think, based on their birth charts, that it was like a soulmate type of thing. I think we can kind of see that these two were meant to come together. Number one thing I've noticed, Travis has done this for a very long time. When he comes out onto the field, he'll do this archer thing, like he's shooting arrows like up into the stands. And his brother actually asked him on their New Heights podcast, like why he does this. And this was like either right when he started dating Taylor or like right before it was public. So it's not like he was saying this about Taylor in any way. But he was like, why do you do that? Like, you've done that for so long. I've always wondered like why you do that. And Travis was like, well, and he like gives this super deep answer that I thought was so nice. He was like, well, for a long time, and this, like I went through some stuff where I just didn't feel like I had any options. There was a time when I almost gave up on football, and they talk about it in the documentary about his brother, and like he was getting really just emotional about it. And he was like, and so I do that to remind people that you can always like shoot for the stars, like never forget that you have opportunities, like you have to believe in yourself. And like all this stuff, and his brother was even like, wait, what? Like, oh man, like really? Oh, that's awesome. Like I had no idea. So there's this layer of depth. And then of course, Taylor Swift has the song, The Archer. She's a Sagittarius sun. He is a Sagittarius moon. So that's why he feels like an archer on the inside. And that's very Sagittarian. Sagittarius is about hope, ruled by Jupiter, bringing hope to other people. It's like a really nice energy. And they genuinely do want other people to feel inspired and hopeful. So we can see that he was already doing that. So that's an interesting little archer connection. Then other people have pointed out that actually it is the song, The Archer, I think, she talks about how there was an arrowhead leading her home, Arrowhead Stadium. People have drawn that connection. And then Loving You Was Red, Red Chiefs. Okay, so those are like just some little cute things that people have been like, oh my gosh, they were always meant to be. And maybe. I think it's pretty cute. But then we look at the birth charts. Let's get serious here. So here is what's going on for Travis. He has his sun in Libra. And this is not in common with any of Taylor's placements. But what I will say about sun in Libra people, and I'm married to a sun in Libra person, these people have the ability to get along with anyone. Libra is all about harmony. Libra is known as the balance in situations. So they actually are the mediator, and they contain the elements of all of the other zodiac signs so that they can understand other people enough to bring people together. They're associated with balance, justice. So they're able to balance out their wishes, other people's needs. And it's just kind of a placement that really can be a friend to anyone. They can get along with many different types of people. So I don't really think that that's a big deal that they don't have the same placement. If it was a different zodiac sign, it might be different. Okay, the moon, biggest connection that we have here, that is one of the marriage indicators when you have a moon-sun conjunction. So whoever is the sun sign person, Taylor in this case, this is the person that really feels seen, which I do not think she did in these other relationships, as we can probably imagine from all of the planetary placements we talked about. In this relationship, she's put up on a pedestal. Her Sagittarius sun is supported by his Sagittarius moon. Again, I've shared this with you guys before. My husband and I also have these placements. He's a Virgo moon, I'm a Virgo sun. And I will tell you, when someone does have the same moon as your sun, you totally feel seen, like you can be yourself, and like you're supported in the person that you want to become. Because we're always kind of growing and developing our positive like sun sign traits. So as she continues to grow, he's able to support the positive growth, which is huge. And then vice versa, because his moon sign is Sagittarius, the way that she naturally goes about life, her instincts, the way that she treats him, it's very much fulfilling emotionally for him because it's just natural for her to do the things that make him feel loved, seen, and like safe emotionally. It's just really sweet. Love it. So that's great. Big check mark there. And then he has his Mercury in Virgo, which is compatible with her Mercury in, I believe it's in Capricorn. Wait, hold on. Let's double check. Yes, her Mercury in Capricorn. 2 earth sign Mercuries. Amazing. They can communicate well. What's cute about this is with her being the mastermind, honestly, of, with the Mercury in Capricorn, she's the one laying the plans. And then with his Mercury in Virgo, he's the one like taking care of the details, making sure the plans come together. It's almost like she will lay out a plan and he'll be like, okay. And he'll start doing little things to make it happen. Very cute. Love that. Super supportive, positive placement. Then we have his Venus in Scorpio, which is connected to her Mars in Scorpio. Now, this is passion, okay? And I love to see this because when you have a Mars and Venus connection, this is having both the energy and intensity of attraction and romance, Venus, and just like raw passion and spiciness with Mars. So I also love the fact that she's the Mars person, because typically Mars is associated with like masculine energy. And I love that she is the one who, like, it kind of puts her in control, basically. So this is a situation where the tables have definitely turned and she is supported. She kind of wears the pants, which I think is pretty cute and nice for her to get to do that. And I think that with it being in Scorpio, especially, Scorpio is ruled by Mars. So that's passion and intensity and loyalty. Also, Scorpio is the kind of energy where like once a Venus or a Mars and Scorpio person like decides something or they make a commitment, it's similar to an earth sign where it really is set in stone. So for them to both have that mutual understanding, that's really great. And that's another placement that could lead to like long-term success. There's a lot of like commitment energy with that placement. His Mars is in Libra. Again, it's a very like get along kind of energy. The way that he thinks about like his passion, so he pursues things that he's passionate about, it's romantic with that Libra energy, and it's definitely going to follow her lead with Mars and Scorpio. So there's just so much here showing that she really is the star in the relationship. And that's something that he's happy to do. It's not like he's threatened, whereas with her past relationship, there was that jealousy with the Capricorn energy. This is actually what he prefers based on the placements. Okay, then we have and this is the best of all, the fact that they both have their North Node in Aquarius and they both have their Chiron in Cancer. So this is basically demonstrating that they're moving in the same direction. The North Node, having the same North Node, it can be complicated at times because there will be situations where you both are kind of like unsure of the next step. But I definitely think that with all these positive things going on, and with her Venus in Aquarius conjunct his North Node, that is indicating that, again, she's kind of leading the way, and their relationship, I think, will pull them in the direction of their North Node. So even if they don't always understand the way or what's coming next, it's like it still provides this energy of forward movement so they can help each other when they're like moving in that North Node direction, which is really, really positive. There's nothing dragging down in this relationship. And then when they both have Chiron in Cancer, this is the potential to heal their Chiron wounds through nurturing. And I think that because they have the Moon-Sun connection, they have a positive Venus-Mars connection, to me, that is how you heal the Chiron wound in Cancer, because that's an emotional wound. The Chiron Cancer wound is about needing to be nurtured and needing to feel seen and good enough as you are. It's like feeling safe, being vulnerable. And I think that for both of them, with what they do and how they're very public, I'm sure they've both been through experiences where they felt like they couldn't really be vulnerable. They had to probably, put up a shield, not really show their full true self, their sensitivities. And with this Cancer and Chiron, I think that they can both actually let their guard down around each other, which what more do you want than that, in a relationship? So I'll say it again. I've said it before. I just think that this is a very positive, long lasting relationship. And I think that it's all about timing, and in all of our relationships, this is something that I've noticed also, just like when I look back at all the people I've dated, and you may recognize this about your relationships too, that it seems like at the time, whoever we were with, it's like they really will help us to bring out different things within us that we need to overcome, whether it's like our insecurities or finding our confidence and strength in a certain area. And then it really is either like that reason season or lifetime. But if you look back, you can really see like what each person has taught you. And I think that it's just that timing thing. I think Taylor's just finally kind of reached this period of time where I just think she's healed a lot of the stuff that she needed to heal. She's done some rebalancing. And of course, life is full of lessons. But I just think on the emotional front that most of the hardest lessons, knock on wood there, but most of the hardest lessons have been learned, and that part of her life is going to start smoothing out, whether it's with him or someone else. But I think the people you start attracting and the type of connections you see in their birth charts can indicate also like where you're at right now and what you're needing to learn. So we kind of call these people in for a reason. Anyway, past life astrology, it is so interesting. Oh my gosh, you guys, I had so much fun doing that. I hope that you guys loved it as much as I did. Give me your comments. I want to hear your feedback. What do you guys think? Could you see Taylor with Travis in the long term? What about the Harry Styles situation? Are you someone that believes that he was the one that got away? I don't know. There's a lot going on here. But you guys, thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and leave a review if you liked this episode. I will see you guys next week for another all new show. So we'll talk then.
Yay Networks.